My guest today is Tory Green. Tory is a co-founder and CEO at IoNet, building the Internet of GPUs for large-scale AI startups. Anyone else that wants to make available use of the resources, I suppose, as well. We'll learn all about this today, but welcome to the show, Tory.
Thank you, Andy. Great to be on.
Great to have you on, Tory. Let's do what we do at the beginning of the show. It would be cool if you could please introduce yourself. Love to hear some of your personal and professional backstory. What have you been doing in the lead up to co-founding IoNet?
Sure. So I actually have had a couple different careers. Started off in more corporate, so investment banking, private equity, corporate strategy, and then I moved into the Web 2 world. So that's where I was a founder first of a digital publisher, and then I was a VC for about 7 years. In my 10 years of VC, I started off more as an investing partner, but then I transitioned to being more of an operating partner where I took on COO, CFO, CMO, and CRO roles of portfolio companies. One of my last gigs there was actually as the COO of a machine learning fintech. And that's when I really sort of got to understand and learn more about the AI space, in particular, the GPU shortage that is facing the space. And so that kind of like started really rattling around in my mind. At the same time, I'd actually personally been very into Web3 and crypto since 2016, 2017, have written a bunch on it, even wrote a book on it. I was especially interested in DePINs, but the problem that I found with crypto, the reason I never made the jump, is I found that most DePINs were effectively solutions looking for problems. It's a great and economic model, but some of the use cases it was serving just weren't problems. And that's really when I sort of started to put two and two together. From my time in the AI company, seeing the shortage of GPUs, which are like arguably the most valuable asset in the world, and DePIN, which is this sort of perfect economic model, it just like, it hit me like a light bulb. Like these two have to go together, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah. Okay. That is a fantastic way of putting it. Thank you, Tory. So yeah, let's start to learn a little bit more about IO.net. Is that how you say it, by the way? How do you call it? IoNet?
I say IoNet, but IO.net works as well.
I guess that's the website, obviously, listeners, but yeah, IoNet. So just give us a little bit more of the, I guess, high-level vision of what IoNet is, the problem you're trying to solve, and the market that you're trying to serve, Tory.
Sure. So at a high level, IoNet it's an Airbnb for GPUs. And our vision is effectively to democratize access to the most valuable asset in the world. And let me explain what I mean by that. The rise of AI has just completely changed the compute landscape. Everyone has seen how much ChatGPT, fastest app ever to 100 million users. And the demand is just insane for AI in general. And it's causing a significant stress on compute. Processing requirements for AI are literally doubling every 3.4 months. So that's, a 10x growth every 18 months. I think model training costs are increasing by 3,100% per year. And Zuckerberg just came out and said the new Llama is going to require 10 times more processing power than before. So you have all this demand, but the problem is the cloud is really not structured to meet that demand. There's several problems. For a long time, it was the shortage of GPUs. But now people are actually starting to talk about how difficult it is to build new data centers. You need permitting, you need construction requirements. And just in general, it's very expensive. So it's, quite frankly, the supply of compute is not keeping pace with the demand. And that's really where DePINs like IoNet come in. I mentioned this sort of like Airbnb model, and that's really what it is. Like what we're doing is we're taking underutilized compute from all over the globe, and we're putting it into a single platform where users can effectively access unlimited computing power. Our suppliers can be anything from independent data centers. There are thousands in the US operating on average 12 to 18% capacity, to consumer cars. When you look at this DPIN, there are really several benefits to this. Number one, they can provide, like I said, access to massive computing power. They're very easy to scale because the data centers are already built. You just plug into it. They're censorship resistant. In many cases, they can actually be more performant, especially in cases of inferencing. And probably most importantly, they are like 60 to 70% cheaper than traditional cloud. And so, not only will this disrupt the cloud, because not only are these guys, is this model better, faster, and cheaper, but I think with the enormous growth in compute, that it may literally be the only way to satisfy this demand.
Yeah, fascinating, Tory. So, you mentioned a couple of times this idea of DePIN, decentralized physical infrastructure, which was, I guess, a leading narrative amongst crypto commentators earlier this year. It still is. So would love to get your thoughts just on, maybe outlining your ideas on how you describe DePIN, if you like, and then particularly, make the case for why DePINs such as what you guys are doing at IoNet is a viable alternative with many advantages, in fact, over something like AWS.
Sure. So DePIN really just stands for Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Network. If you look at like a centralized cloud provider like an AWS, what you basically have is you have a bunch of like data centers all over the world. So, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to a data center, but I went to one in Texas. It's like multiple football fields size with just computers. DePINs follow a different model. They're a single platform that allow just random computers from all over the world to plug into them. This can be like, consumer cards, like every laptop has a GPU, or it can be other independent data centers. Now, this is actually a compute DePIN. And, there are a lot of other compute DePINs out there, like Render, for example, although their DePIN is used more for rendering. But then there's like a Filecoin, which they are a DePIN more for storage. And then there's DePINs that are totally different, like Helium. It's a DePIN for wireless. And basically with Helium, what people do is they literally get nodes, and they're like wireless access points. They put them on their roof. They provide local Wi-Fi, and they get coins in return for that. As I sort of mentioned, the DePIN model, I just think is, I heard one researcher say it's why blockchains were built. And it's such a great model because it overcomes a lot of the scalability concerns. It overcomes the censorship. And, that's why I like to use the Airbnb analogy, right? When you expand supply, the costs just plummet.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. All right. Well, talk to us then, Tory. Who are the end users of the IoNet compute? There are a number of different, I guess, customer target buckets or however you want to put it. But walk us through some of those.
Sure. So, like I said, I've been in ops for a while. So, I'm following a very disciplined go-to-market. Like there are a ton of people that we could go to, but, I believe in establishing a beachhead with one customer type. Our chosen beachhead is, let's say, seed to Series B generative AI startups. Mm-hmm. The reason we chose this is there's just such a huge hair on fire problem with these guys. I have actually seen some of these like seed stage companies. So seed stage spending $700,000 to $1 million a month on compute. And I think there's some study by Andreessen, like startups spend, especially like AI startups spend 75% of the funds they raise on AI compute. So, we knew these guys had a big problem. They're eager. And so we went to them first. We've had a lot of traction in that market. It's a multi-billion-dollar market there, so we expect to continue to grow. But as we sort of get more and more penetration in this beachhead market, all kind of possibilities open up. One thing we could do next is, as we establish proof of concept, we could start going to the big tech companies. We could start going to AI divisions of large enterprises like Procter & Gamble or JP Morgan. We could go to governments. We could go to universities. There's basically all of these options. And then eventually, if we get big enough, there's no reason that someone like IoNet couldn't serve the LLMs themselves. Like right now we have, tens of thousands of GPUs on the network. And so as we continue to grow, the possibilities are limitless.
Yeah, and so what you're talking about then, Tory, is it's really important for DePINs like IoNet to exist, because those kind of early phase startups, they just don't have the capital or the runway to compete with established big players. You talked about what Zuckerberg was talking about in terms of the next llama, the compute required there, and it's the same with Open AI. They've just spent I don't know what it is, but it's billions and billions, I imagine, in terms of training those models, and to get access to that kind of compute, the centralized AWS way, it's just not viable for any company that is in the early stages, is it?
Yeah, well, it's a couple different points. Number one, the cost is often prohibitive. Like I said, I mean, I think OpenAI spends $700,000 per day.
Yeah.
So that's even and that was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
The cost is often prohibitive. There's limited choice, and it actually it's quite a pain in the butt to sign up for some of these. Like some of these actually even ask for your business plan. They ask for long-term contracts. With IoNet, you basically plug in. You can choose from GPUs all over the world. You can choose your card type. You have flexibility. You can spin up a cluster in fewer than 90 seconds, and it's much cheaper. And actually, one point you mentioned about training, the interesting thing that we've found is training is important, but actually 80 to 90% of the market is inference. So it's actually, it's like, most of OpenAI's cost is people typing their questions into ChatGPT. And actually, that's where decentralized networks really shine, because we've found that we can effectively act as a de facto CDN, right? So imagine users in Vietnam and they're using AWS. Well, they may have to ping a server in Texas to answer this question. And, that's a little higher latency. Whereas with a decentralized network, they could choose to have their servers in Singapore, which just makes the performance just that much better.
Yeah. Seeing a number of other, I suppose, blockchain startups not necessarily pivot to this model, but yeah, definitely looking at it as well. I was talking to one yesterday based out of New Zealand, where I'm from, Tory. Subquery, they've just done something similar with making their network available for AI inference. But one of the things that's important, Tory, in terms of making sure that your network is big enough, decentralized enough, and has enough compute available. How do you attract, users or clients, what do you call them, people that are willing to provide that compute to your network? What are the incentives? And how do you go about communicating with them and getting them to come on board?
Sure. So there's really two incentives. Obviously, access to demand, and then rewards. And that's one of the great things about a DePIN is we basically provide block rewards to suppliers. So you can go on our Tokenomics page and see it's through the foundation, but you can see how many tokens are emitted each month. I think it's around 3 million right now. But basically, any supplier that comes on and provides compute power will get a fraction of those rewards. So it's really, really attractive for them that way. And the other thing too is just we are constantly bringing demand on. So the more demand we bring on, the more suppliers, and you basically get this network.
Yeah, and so just talk us through those rewards. What are they paid out in? Are they paid out in your own token?
Yes,
and
they're paid out in IO.
Yeah. Oh, so what is the IO token? So
Yeah. So what is the IO token? Great question. It's the native token of the IO network. It has 3 different functionalities. The first is it's a utility token. Consumers can either pay in fiat or they can choose to pay in IO. Suppliers are paid out in IO. So that's how they both get their revenue for the job and also how they get their block rewards. Perhaps more importantly, it's very instrumental in staking the network. Every supplier has to stake a certain amount of IO. And basically the way that's used, if we find out that they either weren't performing the work or they were a fake GPU or spoof GPU, then we can slash that. And so that secures the network. And then finally, we're committed to progressive decentralization. So at some point, I think there will be a big governance component to the token.
Got it. Thank you, Tory. Look, going a bit wider, I guess, there's been talk this year of, potentially an AI bubble, right? So obviously NVIDIA, one of, if not the best performing stock in recent memory, literally on the back of the AI boom. And you can see that is kind of, classic bubble type behavior if you look at it from a chart perspective or something like that. But at the same time, just the amount of AI startups that are growing, the demand for end users just using AI, so the AI inference model that you're talking about, people are signing up for ChatGPT and all their equivalents, and the models are just getting better and faster. So it doesn't look like AI is going away, but at the same time, can it be in a bubble? Just interested in your perspectives, Tory, as someone on more of the inside of this demand and supply.
It's such a complicated question. I think you hit the nail on the head, though. AI is not going away. And when you think about what a bubble is, right? Like one thing that I'm certain of is that the trend line for AI is going up big time. I mean, it's, at the least, if you sort of think internet was phase one, mobile phase two, AI is going to be phase three. It's quite simply the new computing platform. It's transforming almost every industry in the world. It's becoming table stakes for any app. So, AI is definitely not a bubble to the extent that it will be higher at some point in the future. Now, if we're saying okay, is the market for investing in AI startups overheated? Sure, that may be the case. I don't really pay too much attention to all the funding going into different AI startups, but with most technologies, you do sort of see the adoption curve where it's it goes up. Then you have the trial of disillusionment. But I think the thing about AI is maybe there's a pullback, but it's kind of delivering on everything it's promised. Look how much we've seen. I remember playing with DALL-E 2 years ago and how far we've come. Now, sure, maybe there, some people predict AGI is right around the corner. Maybe that takes a lot longer. I don't know. Maybe there is a stall in AI. Maybe there's an AI winner. But I think, first and foremost, from an AI perspective, I think there's this just huge latent demand, and I think it will still be, 10 times to 100 times bigger when all is said and done. The second piece of the question, it wasn't really asked, but from our perspective, it really doesn't matter all that much because at the end of the day, we believe in AI, but we're also a decentralized compute network. So, there's a lot of demand for GPUs outside of AI. It's heavily used in gaming. It's heavily used in IoT. It's used in zero knowledge, which is becoming big in crypto. One huge thing is the metaverse. They say rendering the metaverse is going to require, multiple orders of magnitude increases in processing power. So, from our perspective as a business, we feel that we're pretty well covered because it doesn't matter if it's AI, if it's IoT, if it's metaverse, the hardware still works the same. But, we believe enough in the traction we've seen for AI and the demand we're seeing from customers that it probably is not a bubble. And so, we're sort of fine with pushing down that route.
Yeah, makes sense, Tory. Thank you for that. Maybe we should just touch on some partnerships or other kind of platforms, projects that you're working with. I think you mentioned Filecoin and the Render Network. Interestingly, I had on Chris Feng, who's one of the co-founders at Chainbase, a week or so ago, and he said that he was working with, or Chainbase was working with you guys as well.
Yeah, we have a lot of partners on both sides of the equation. On the demand side, we have, I think we have 40 to 50 partnerships signed. We have, like Kriya, Leonardo. And the interesting thing about a lot of these partnerships is they are sort of just rolling off their trial phases right now. So right now, I think we're probably doing 3 to 4,000 in GMV a day. I expect that to increase pretty dramatically in the coming weeks and months because a lot of these revenue side partnerships have been very happy, and so they're scaling up now. We also have a lot of partnerships on the demand side, and that can range from sort of existing data centers to a lot of these crypto projects. As you mentioned, we're partnered with Render, we're partnered with Filecoin, we're partnered with Aether. I think one of the things that we do where we're unique is, and to understand IoNet, you do kind of have to have a background in machine learning, but it's this idea of clustering. Clustering at the easiest level is taking several computers and having them work as a single computer. Clustering is essential for machine learning. If you didn't run a cluster, it would take 10 years to train GPT-3. And so basically every enterprise, like every serious AI company is using clusters. Now, historically, there's been like two ways to cluster. You either literally physically plug your machines in together, or you have them all in the same data center and you do it over the internet. But they have to be in the same data center. The technology that we created, which is very unique, is the ability to cluster over different locations. And that's truly groundbreaking because we can take we can build a cluster with 10 GPUs from Canada, 10 from Brazil, and 10 from Singapore. So this offers us a lot of optionality. And that's why a lot of these companies are partnering with us, because we do have the access to demand, because this is what the enterprises need.
Yep. Got it. Thank you, Tory. All right. Well, look, as we start to finish off this part of the podcast, just paint us a picture, Tory, of, what the landscape looks like for you and the team at IoNet just over, the rest of this year and then the year ahead after that. Anything that you're working on in terms of the product pipeline, what you're hoping to add to your offering, and what you see coming down the pipeline in terms of, industry trends, anything like that. Just, talk us through it.
Sure. So we're actually releasing, it's great you brought this up now. We're releasing a state of the network address in the next couple of days, which, is kind of us coming on, recapping where we've been. It's been a big year. Obviously we built this network globally, thousands of GPUs. I think we're in like I don't even remember, like 100 plus countries. We raised 40 million, launched a token on Binance. As far as the next step goes, our long-term vision, as I said, is to effectively, it's audacious, but it's to replace AWS. How do we get there? We build a real business. And you like I already explained sort of the benefits of why I think DePINs will take down centralized networks. But you have to remember, this is a $2.5 trillion market. That's trillion with a T. And so there's a huge opportunity to capture share. And the way IoNet does that, quite frankly, is to simply focus on the long term and build a business that can compete with AWS, GCP, and Azure. And how do we do that? Well, number one, we have this ability to severely undercut them on price. And so I think we move that. We get in there, we disrupt the market. We just steal as many customers as we can from them. Second is, keep maintaining the best platform possible. It's our goal to meet or exceed the SLAs of these companies. And when you combine that with price, you have a strong recipe there. Third is, as I mentioned, we're committed to progressive decentralization. We want to keep involving the community more and more, because that's a true source of competitive advantage. We can get, unlike a lot of these big cloud providers, we can get real-time community from the feedback, real-time feedback from the community. We can involve them in our decisions. And then finally, it's hiring. We're actually going on a big hiring spree right now. And, one of the goals, quite frankly, is to poach some of the best talents from the AWS, the GCPs, the CoreWeaves, the people who are maybe a little disenchanted and want to do something new. That's sort of like, and the state of the network is going to outline more of the exact goals for 2024 and some of the exact for 2025. When I really think long term, what really excites me is it's sort of building building the network for decentralized AI. And here's what I mean by that. If you look at like Google right now, right? Well, even stepping back, if you look at there's AI has three main components. It has the compute, it has the AI models, and it has the data. Really, the only three things you need to make AI. If you look at a company like Google, it effectively controls all, right? It has all your data. It has the money to hire the best machine learning engineers, and it has the money to basically build these huge data centers with compute. The problem with this is, it creates a vicious cycle. Google builds the AI, they make more money, they get even more money, the network gets bigger. But we've seen that there are serious problems with the centralized AI. It has major problems with censorship. You don't know if you can trust it with your data. There's just all these issues. I think that, for the good of the world, we need to sort of break that up, right? We need to create a platform for decentralized AI. IoNet's doing its part right now with compute. There's a lot of other people doing their part with compute. There are other interesting projects like Grass that are doing on the data side. And I think, I think we will continue to partner and build to try to make that ecosystem a reality. So after we sort of formalize the IO cloud as a compute network, one of the next things we're looking at is potentially a decentralized model marketplace. So think of like a decentralized Hugging Face. And then who knows, we may experiment with data on our own side. So, that would allow us to create a one-stop shop for AI. And I think, we're pretty disciplined in the short term, but with the growth of this market and the power of decentralization, I think there's really so many opportunities for the future.
No doubt there are so many opportunities for the future. All right, well, just to finish off this part of the podcast, Tory, for anyone interested in becoming either a supplier of compute or even a consumer of compute, what is the best place for them to go to learn all about IoNet and the kind of offerings and incentives, etc., that are on offer?
I would go to the site. I mean, it's funny. I had when we were fundraising, I had a pitch with a VC, and I spent like 25 minutes on the pitch, and then I finally did the demo. And right when I did the demo, they saw how easy it was. Like anyone can go on in 90 seconds and create a cluster. And they were like, "Man, you should have started with the demo. This just explains everything." So it's like, go to the site. If you want to be a worker, go to the site. We'll walk you through it. If you do want more information, we have very good documentation on the site, and also our Discord and our Twitter have a lot of information.
Fantastic. All right, let's start to finish off the podcast, Tory. We do that, of course, by running you through the very famous crypto conversation hot take round. Are you up for it?
Sure, let's do it.
Let's do it, Tory. Just want your kind of honest hot take style answers, if you like, to various questions. Question one for you is, where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
Not a Bitcoin maximalist, multi-chain now. It's interesting. Even when I got into crypto in 16, 17, I've never been a huge Bitcoin bug. I mean, I own Bitcoin, but Ethereum is really what brought me in. I like this idea of a sort of a global compute network. And I was an Ethereum maxi for a while, but as I started researching more, I realized that, first of all, there's no monopoly in the world. Like, I don't care what anyone says. Facebook may look like a monopoly. Google may look like a monopoly. But once you realize their market is advertising, you realize it's not, right? Like, Facebook may control 30% and Google may control 32%. Same thing with the cloud. So every industry, in fact, has multiple major players. I do see that in crypto. Like, I don't know if there's going to be a million chains, but especially when you look at different use cases, right? Like, sure, Ethereum is probably great for some heavy financial transactions because it's very secure. And like, if you're sending tens of millions of dollars, I don't think you care about a $16 gas fee. But, Ethereum's not going to work for gaming or something that requires hyper fast transactions. You're going to need a network like a Solana or an Aptos. I think the layer twos are helping with that a bit, but then you get into the debate: are L2s multi-chain? I've heard some very smart people say absolutely, because there's only two things in crypto: it's chains and bridges, right? So I think definitely we're moving to a multi-chain.
Yeah, Makes sense. Thank you, Tory. A very nuanced answer. What would you say, though, is your firmest conviction crypto opinion, Tory?
I just think decentralization is a superior model.
Yeah.
Like obviously I think it's superior for IoNet. I think Bitcoin is a superior form of money. I think Ethereum is a superior internet. Helium's a superior wireless network, just across the board. And, I think one thing to note that I think a lot of people get wrong, the idea of disruption. Like most people don't know what disruption is, but disruptive technologies are by definition worse than incumbent technologies. And the classic example of disruption is the telephone. When the telephone started out, it could only go like a mile or two, right? So it couldn't be used by any real business. Everyone had to use the telegraph. But the telephone offered one thing that the telegraph couldn't, like real-time communication, right? So that's usually how disruptive technologies take root. They're really terrible technologies, and but they offer one thing that the incumbent can't. And once they get that foothold, they move up. Like eventually, at some point, the telephone just did away with the telegraph. The incumbents can't compete without cannibalizing themselves. I think you're seeing the same thing in crypto. People forget how early this is, and they look at all the problems like the scalability, the speed, the poor user experience, and they're like, this technology is crap. But the truth is, this is how every disruptive technology starts off. And by definition, all crypto projects do one thing that centralized projects can't, right? They transfer control away from a centralized entity. I think we are seeing right now, like this is now taking root. And I think it's only a matter of time before it moves up market and you see superior performance, and it simply displaces the incumbents, who, by the way, cannot compete because it cannibalizes them.
Yep. All right. Very well said, Tory. Thank you for that. Look, Bill Gates famously said, Tory, that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. So look, anything you like here, but I suppose, specifically we're thinking of, DePIN networks, compute, even Web3. What does it all look like in 10 years' time?
I think I agree with that statement. It's always a tough slog. If you look at crypto right now, I think Vitalik wrote a great article about this. There are basically like three things holding the space back: speed, user experience, and privacy. I think speed is rapidly being solved by the sort of high performance blockchains like the Aptoses and the Solanas and the L2s. User experience is being solved very quickly with this idea of account abstraction or smart wallets. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous right now that if I send money to the wrong account, that it's gone. Like that needs to be fixed. And in three, privacy. Like it's not great that everything is viewable on chain. Well, some people may argue it's great, but probably not for the average user. And I think zero knowledge is going to help fix that. I think there's so many tools coming into crypto, but if you sort of look at where crypto is, right? If you look at the adoption curve, you've got like 3 to 4% of people are innovators. So they like to tinker things just because they're new. And then let's say another 15% are early adopters who are quick to get on a technology. And then you have, the chasm. That's why they have crossing the chasm, right? Like you have this big jump until the early majority comes in. I think at crypto, we have not crossed the chasm yet. We are at like roughly 19-20% crypto ownership. So we're right at that point. And actually, that's one of the reasons that I am so bullish on IoNet. Like my goal is, I think we could be a project that, helps crypto cross the chasm, because, I think there are a lot of great use cases for crypto. But a lot of times they're on the margins, right? Like, for instance, crypto is great for like remittances, international transfers. But a lot of the crypto projects out there, again, they aren't solving major problems in the market, but IoNet is. And so I'm hoping that, when a lot of these startups realize that they can get, 60 to 70% cheaper, they won't care that it's crypto. And truth is, I think the best answer to your question, where is crypto going to be in 10 years? Crypto won't be a thing, like that's like saying, where's electricity going to be in 10 years? It'll just be how business is done. It'll just be a network structure.
100%. I think that's exactly the best way to describe it, Tory. It'd be a relief when everyone can stop talking about crypto, and it just is. Another way of thinking about this, of course, though, Tory, is a wonderful quote by William Gibson, which you'll be very familiar with. He famously said that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. With that in mind, Tory, can you think of an example of the future being here right now, but most people aren't aware of it?
Well, I think it probably still is crypto to a large extent. You know, like a lot of our customers are using IoNet and they are switching from AWS GCP. They're getting much, much cheaper rates. You know, going outside of IoNet. You know, it was very interesting. I was talking to, this was back when I was a VC. I was talking to a entrepreneur. It was either an entrepreneur or investor in Nigeria. And like you see that in a lot of these developing countries, crypto is really big because, you know, like he got a bunch of funds and it's like the people felt safe giving him funds because they knew that it wouldn't be embezzled or, you know, like sent to the wrong place. You know, because there's a lot of different countries with different political structures, but with crypto, it's sort of a lot safer to do business. Also with remittances, people are using crypto for remittances a lot. People in countries with hyperinflationary rates are using crypto a lot. And so ironically, I think, you know, like the major use cases of crypto are not as much in Silicon Valley as they are in some of the developing world. I mean, look at like Axie Infinity, right? How many people were playing that game in the Philippines and were literally earning like more money than they would in their day job?
Yeah, that is exactly right. All right. And I guess that brings us nicely to the final question, Tory, which is, what is your favorite science fiction book, film, or TV show?
Star Trek: The Next Generation.
A classic selection, very utopian. Boldly go, Tory, boldly go. Look, this has been a lot of fun. Really enjoyed having you on the show. Thank you for spending some time with us and sharing your perspectives. Just to close it out, Tory, just tell people where they can find you on Twitter, on X, wherever else you like to hang out online. And once again, you know, where people should go to learn all about IoNet.
Sure. It's io.net. You can find our Discord there. You can find our Twitter there. And I'm M Tory Green on Twitter.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tory. All the best. And bye
Thank you,
for now.
Andy.